The Seattle Seahawks have a chance to prove that they're for real tomorrow night against the Green Bay Packers. What's going on, everybody? Good morning, Saturday. Not a lot going on today. A few college football games. We got the Army-Navy game. But if you are a Seahawks fan, your mind is almost certainly on something that happens tomorrow night. Nothing today is really going to distract you too much from it. It's a big game, about as big as they come in Week 15 of the season. A lot on the line for both teams. Not just playoff stuff. Like, obviously, the playoff stuff matters. But there's also credibility on the line here. Both teams are trying to get credibility that they are a true contender. This video is powered by BetUS. More on them a little bit later, but let's talk about that for a second here, because that feels like it's at stake as much as a playoff spot is, because Green Bay, they are a team that has obviously put together a good season. They're 9-4. They've done some very impressive things. They've survived injuries. They've survived setbacks. But it's not a team that has stacked up a bunch of impressive wins. They have generally fallen short when faced with tough opposition. They have one good win this year against Houston. But if they can go into Seattle and beat an 8-5 Seahawks team on the road, with the way Seattle is playing over the last month, that will be a signature win for that team that will make them feel really good about themselves headed into the postseason. At that point, they will have basically clinched a spot. And for the Seahawks, this Seahawks team has put together a really good month of football. They've beaten some decent teams. They've had some good results, but they haven't beaten that really good team yet. And if they find a way to beat this Packers team, who is coming off a longer than usual week. They played on last Thursday, so they've had extra days off. And the way Green Bay's playing, the way their offense has been going the last few games, if they win this one, then you're going to have to start thinking about them as contenders, at least fringe contenders. So it's one of those matchups where the winner is going to get a lot of credit from the national media, and the loser is going to kind of fade a little bit. People are going to look at that Green Bay team and say, hey, who have you beaten? Every time you face a good team, you lose. And if Seattle loses, it's going to be, well, you won 4 in a row, great, but you haven't beaten anybody great yet this year. You had a chance this week. You didn't get it done. So you need to win this one if you want to get the respect. It's on the line here. So let's talk about the Packers. Let's start with the offense, because that's the side of the ball that they're really feeling good about right now. If you were to talk about this Packers team, I think you got to lead with the way the offense is playing. They've scored 30 plus in 3 straight. They survived a lot earlier this season, right? Like, they looked like they were sunk. They lost their first game, a game they probably should have won. Jordan Love got hurt. They survived the Jordan Love injury. He comes back. He still isn't totally himself. He's still not playing great. And I think that on some level, people are a little disappointed in what Love is doing, but he's gotten back on track. At least he's become a playmaker, right? At least you can count on him to make plays. Sometimes he makes them for the other team, but good quarterback. Got a good running back in Josh Jacobs, really balances out the offense. A signing that I did not think they should make, that I did not think would work, but so far so good. And you've got a selection of good receivers. They don't have any one stud. They got Jaden Reed, who's good. They got Christian Watson, who's good. They got well, actually, they won't have Luke Musgrave for this game. They got Romeo Doubs, who hasn't necessarily grown the way people expected, but he's good. They have a bevy of weapons that are decent. Not necessarily any one singular killer, but they got guys who can get it done. And it's all backed up by one of the best coaches in the league in LaFleur. He's been great for them. Been really, really excellent at getting the most out of the offense, even when they didn't have their quarterback. And it is an offense that poses a big threat. Probably the biggest threat this defense has had to play this year. Because we've seen how that Shanahan Niners attack has fallen off this year. Even the McVay Rams, their offense is not necessarily the driving force behind them being competitive. But this Green Bay team, probably more than any other team you play this year or have played this year, poses that threat. Before I go any further, I want to tell you about my friends over at BetUS. You can head on over there right now and use their sports book to bet on games such as this Packers versus Seahawks game. You can get close to even odds right now. Money line is in Green Bay, minus 140. You can bet on the point spread, minus 1.5. You can bet on the over-under. You can do game props. You can bet on a bunch of other games across the League of Football this week. You can bet on basketball. You can bet on hockey. Whatever you want to do. Use promo code YouTube150 to get a 150% deposit bonus on your first deposit up to $2,000 and a 125% deposit bonus on your next two deposits up to $2,000. Get on over to BetUS, use the promo code, get your free money, and get to some sports betting. So anyway, like I said, it's a real test for your defense. But looking at what this Packers team can do to you on that side of the ball, I'll say this. When they do not have a running game that controls the game, it gets very tough for them because Jordan Love has shown he is a quarterback that will give you the ball. He is a quarterback that becomes very uncomfortable when he gets off his first read. When he has to make plays off script, I know that he has the skill set to do it. I know he has the arm to do it, but it doesn't come out as smoothly as you would like when things get complicated. I'm not comparing him to a Brock Purdy. I think he's definitely better than a Brock Purdy, but it's a similar thing. You get him off script, you force him behind the sticks, you don't give him that dominant running game to lean on, and he's good, but there are real problems there, mostly in the form of turnovers. He is one of the worst quarterbacks in the league against the blitz. Now, the Seahawks don't blitz that much, but they do send blitzes when it's appropriate. They are willing to blitz when they need to. So if you can force Green Bay into 3rd and 6, 3rd and 9, 3rd and 12, 3rd and 15, and you can get those blitzes going, you can throw stuff at Love that he's not expecting pre-snap and force him to go through his reads, you're going to get mistakes out of him. That's just the pattern that we've seen from this Packers offense so far this year. So if you can get to that point, if you can get to the point where you're stopping Green Bay's offense on early downs, you're going to have things go in your favor. He's going to give you the ball once or twice. It's really hard to imagine him not. It's just that's the way he plays right now. And I don't think he's going to be able to radically change his game going into a hostile environment in Seattle on national television. So I feel really good about our chances in as long as we can stop the run early. Green Bay does not really offer any kind of a dual threat from Love. They don't have a dual threat quarterback here, Love, especially this year because of the injuries he's had with the groin and the knee, has become pretty much a pure pocket quarterback, and he doesn't really threaten a defense with his legs very much. So it gives you one less thing to think about as a defense. And the way this run defense has played over the last several weeks, you got to believe it's a winning formula. You got to believe that it's enough to go and get it done on defense. So I don't think Green Bay's dropping 30 on the Seahawks this week. If they do, it won't be all because of their offense. Maybe they get some big plays from their defense or special teams, I guess. But realistically, this is where the streak stops. So that's that side of the ball. I don't hate it. I don't hate the matchup. They don't have one superstar killer on the offense except for maybe Josh Jacobs. And at the end of the day, he's a running back. And for the most part, he's just a running back. He's not a big receiving back. He's not a McCaffrey. He's not one of those guys that is going to make a lot of plays in the passing game. Does it a little bit, but not a lot. So I think that in some ways, even though they're obviously a very good offense, they're a top 10 offense, even though they haven't had their quarterback in every game, they're kind of straightforward. They're a little bit vanilla, I feel like, in how they come at you because they don't have the dual threat quarterback. They don't have a dual threat running back, if you want to use that phrase, in regards to Josh Jacobs. I know it's a little bit awkward, but I think you guys get what I'm saying. I think it's very doable, and I expect McDonald to go out there with a game plan to get it done. So that gets us to the other side of the ball, where Green Bay, um, it's a defense that has played well so far this year, but for the most part, they have played well against some bad offenses. They have registered good results against some lackluster offenses. They've run their points per game allowed up to the top 10. I think they're like 8th or ninth right now. So they stop the other team from scoring, but when they go up against better offenses, like, say, Detroit, it hasn't exactly looked like a great defense. And the main problem they have is their pass rush. They don't really have one. Their pass rush is one of the worst in the league. Their pressure rate is, I believe, bottom 4, bottom 5 in the NFL. They don't get pressure. And they're also not that interested in doing anything about it. I was talking with the Hawks Nest on our stream 2 days ago. He mentioned this, and it's true. This is a Packers team that is content with not getting a lot of pressure. They rush 4, drop 7, and they just say, we'll figure it out. Somebody up front is going to get pressure eventually. We don't need to blitz. We don't need to throw anything super exotic out there. We're just going to keep it simple, going to keep on going in the same direction, and eventually somebody on this front is going to turn into that super stud that can just beat double teams and get home on the quarterback. Lucas Van Ness, Kenny Clark, Rashawn Gary, somebody's going to get home. And so far this year, for the most part, they don't really get home. There's just not a lot of quarterback pressure, and Green Bay is content with that. So the Seattle offensive line should be able to hold up. The way they played last week, and to a certain extent the way they played against the Jets, it should work. You should be able to not sit in max protect all day and still give Geno time. They have a couple of good players in that front. Like, Kenny Clark is good. Rashawn Gary is pretty good. I'm not a huge fan, but he's pretty good. He can play. He belongs in this league. Lucas Van Ness, wasn't a fan of him coming out. Still haven't seen a ton from him. But you should be able to win your one-on-one matchups in pass protection against this front. And you should be able to run the ball pretty well, I think. Especially with what we saw last week against Arizona. If you can replicate what you did last week against Arizona, I think we're going to be winning the battle up front. I think our offensive line, and I know I'm getting ahead of myself here because we're talking about a really bad offensive line that has played really one good game and then one kind of sort of competent game the week before, and we're parlaying a lot into that. But I think this matchup is good because Arizona also very infamously does not rush the passer well, but Arizona is at least willing to sell out to try to come up with some solution. And the first time we played Arizona, it worked very well for them. Second time we played Arizona, we shut it down. This Green Bay team isn't even really going to sell out, I don't think. It doesn't seem like it's in their DNA. They don't have it in them. They play you straight up. And that might be something they could get away with, but you look at that defense right now, no Jair Alexander outside, so their cornerback spot is significantly weakened. Corey Ballantyne's questionable. He might play more because there's no Jair, but he doesn't really play all that much. That becomes a little bit more important now that Jair Alexander's out, though. So keep an eye on Ballantyne. No Javon Bullard, so that's a safety out for them. So they don't have the raw talent in that secondary to make it work with not getting a pass rush. And that is where I think you can really hurt them. That is where I think this game can really be won. Geno getting time in the pocket. Receivers getting open downfield. Remember, Javon Bullard. I know he's not a great player yet, but he does play a lot for that team. He's a guy who will come up and defend in the slot sometimes. So JSN getting defended by a backup. DK Metcalf getting defended by a cornerback that is not the Packers' best cornerback because the Packers' best cornerback is going to be watching from the sideline. You put it all together, and I feel like you've got a pretty clear formula here. Like, I see it. There's no doubt in my mind that we can go out there and win this game with that formula. So, yeah, I think that's really all that need be said. Like, I can't believe I'm saying this because Green Bay's obviously a very good team. They're 9-4 for a reason. Their offense is clicking over the last 3 games they played. But the math just adds up to me in a very clear way. And hopefully I don't end up regretting saying all this tomorrow night. But I think when you add it all up, you're like, this Seahawks offense should be able to dictate terms against these Packers. Maybe bad weather could be the one screwball that gets thrown in here. Apparently it might rain for the game. It might not. It might rain before and not rain during. So maybe the weather is going to play a little bit of a factor here, but I don't see how this Green Bay vanilla pass rush is going to get anything done, because really what Seattle's Achilles heel could be are those exotic blitz packages that a team like Arizona will throw at you. And even that's hit or miss. But I don't think this and I'm going to call it a little bit of a low talent pass rush in Green Bay is going to have the answer. They do get Edgerrin Cooper in this game. He's healthy. We weren't sure about that this week, so that helps the run defense. But realistically, I think we'll be able to run the ball pretty well on them too. And I think we get there. I think we get there. So even though we don't have Ken Walker in this game, it looks like, I still feel good about it. And I just feel like we can make Jordan Love uncomfortable and we can win the game. So, yeah, I'm feeling good. This is as good as I felt about a game against a really good team in a while. I don't feel like we can win this game because of some injury. I don't feel like we can win this game because of some lucky happenstance. I feel like we can win this game because I like the matchup. I like what this defense has a chance to do against a good but flawed quarterback. And I like what this offense can do against a relatively vanilla defense that is down some of their most important and talented pieces. So I'm going to go 30-24 Seattle. I think Seattle wins 30-24. I'm here for it. Hopefully I'm on here tomorrow talking about this win. If not, then you've got an uphill battle to climb to get back in it. But we'll worry about that after the game's over. So see you guys later. Go Hawks. Thank you to BetUS for powering this video. More stuff coming later. I'll make at least one more video later today. But for now, let's just leave it at beat the Packers, get the win at home, set yourself up for a postseason run at the end of the year. See ya.